Hey, what's up, guys? It's Rick from DFS On Demand, back with another update for the Quarter Arcade Challenge. I have not played a lot. That's the update. With the holidays, and I was traveling last week. I think I've played two slates, maybe in the last 2 weeks, just because I haven't been around a lot near lineup lock, and I'm not going to dump 50 lineups. I'm not going to play. That's a disservice to you guys. That's a disservice to this challenge if I'm not around, at game time, at tip off to make the appropriate adjustments. So I'm just not going to do it. So unfortunately, I haven't been around that much, so I haven't played. So I can give you a quick update. So I've played two slates. One was an NBA slate, and one was a PGA slate. The NBA slate, I think we lost $8. We had a pretty good core. If I remember correctly, we invested a lot in Ian Clark. We had Steph Curry the first night he went off. This was on the fourth, so he went off for a good game. But we also had a lot of Ian Clark in that, and he scored like 7 DraftKings points and bombed a lot of our lineups. The projections, I guess, liked him. The Warriors were a big favorite. I guess it would have been garbage time. To bank on garbage time is one thing, but it didn't work out. Other than that, we had a pretty good core, but it was a losing night. That puts us in the red for the first time during this challenge. We're down $5.50. Obviously not concerned at all. I think what you're going to see over the course of this is there's going to be a lot of swings. And as we get more slates, I'll make some graphs where you can see, results over time and things like that. So we're going to go through some swings, but the fact that we're in the red for the first time is pretty good. We'll just continue to go there. And then I added a new tab here for PGA. The first tournament of the calendar year, we took a loss, and that's okay. So we're going to talk a lot more about PGA. PGA is one of my favorite DraftKings sports, or DFS sports, I should say. We're actually going to have to use Fantasy Cruncher for that. So I use Fantasy Cruncher for these 50 lineups here. We had a decent amount of Hideki Matsuyama, who finished second, but we didn't have a ton of Justin Thomas, who won the thing. But again, we'll talk more about that at another time. Let's talk about tonight, because tonight's NBA slate is really interesting. And here it is. It is a 3-game slate. It starts at 4:30. All the games are tipping off by 5 Pacific. And we've got some really interesting dilemmas tonight. So first of all, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is $13,000 tonight, which I looked back at my game logs, and that is the most expensive player that has been on any slate this season. Russell Westbrook has been, by the way, the 19 most expensive players. They're all Russell Westbrook. So he's the most expensive he's ever been, and there's not many other options. So I really wonder what this ownership is going to be tonight. My projections are actually a little partial to Anthony Davis. Let me see if I can grab my projections real quick. Here we go. So my projections for tonight are actually show Anthony Davis just about a point better than Russell Westbrook, and he's $2,000 cheaper. So I imagine we're probably going to have more of Anthony Davis than we are of Russell Westbrook. Carmelo Anthony, I know, projecting very highly at 6.3 points. I don't love this personally. I know he's had 2 really big games this week, but both of them were against Milwaukee. We'll see about that. I think the real situation here is that Jimmy Butler, currently a game time decision with an illness, if he doesn't suit up, we might lock Dwayne Wade into every single lineup. And I don't love putting that much of my opinion in this. However, I think the one flaw in my projections are projecting studs, or projecting guys who normally play a bunch of minutes, their usage rate when one of their teammates sits out. I think that's a flaw in the projections, it doesn't project them very well. Basically, we're really good with the value guys. We're really good with guys who are getting an increase in minutes. Those we hit all the time. The guy like Dwayne Wade, whether Jimmy Butler plays or not, his minutes aren't going to change. He's going to play 32 minutes. But they're going to be high value minutes and high usage minutes if Jimmy Butler doesn't play. So I think that we miss that a little bit in these projections sometimes. So I might just step in if Jimmy Butler doesn't go, and if I know that before tip off, I might step in and lock Dwayne Wade into every single lineup and just see what happens. Monte Eunice, so he has played one game with the Pelicans, and he scored, I think it was like 27 DraftKings points in 22 minutes. Again, if he does that same thing tonight, we'll take 9 times value from him. So I imagine he's going to be in a lot of lineups. But other than that, we might just have to play it by ear. We've got about an hour and 15 minutes until this slate kicks off, and I'm hoping we have some information about Jimmy Butler by then. But if I had to guess right now, I think it's probably going to be, we're going to have more Anthony Davis than Russell Westbrook. We're going to have a lot of Carmelo Anthony. I think we're going to have a lot of the Knicks in general. They are projecting really well against the Pelicans tonight. And then I imagine if Butler goes out, I might put my fingerprints on this and just drop Dwayne Wade into every single lineup and see what happens. 3-game slate, so there's probably not going to be a ton of value out there. So I might just stock up on studs. We'll see. We'll see what the projections do. But either way, I'll be back on shortly with what we've decided on. And then I'll, of course, make an update when we have the results. Okay, talk to you guys soon. All right, what's up, guys? So it looks like Jimmy Butler is going to play, just upgraded to probable. So I think me putting my fingerprints on this, which probably wouldn't have been a good thing anyway, and starting Dwayne Wade in every single lineup is probably not going to happen. So here's what we would go with right now, and I'll probably run these projections just one more time before tip here, but this is probably what we're going with. Super heavy on the Knicks. Am I thrilled about that? No, I understand it. I get it. The Pelicans are a fairly bad defense that gives up a lot of fantasy points, and the Knicks get a big boost from that and from Las Vegas tonight, so I understand why we're heavier on the Knicks. And again, there's only 3 games, so that New Orleans game would be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 highest owned players would all be coming out of that game. Do I love it? Absolutely not. On this short slate, I do think it's interesting because this might be like the second most popular game. Everyone's probably going to like load up on OKC. Everyone's probably going to load up on Chicago. Everyone's probably going to load up on Minnesota. So I do think that the Knicks might be the most overlooked team on this slate. We'll see. But this is what we're going with right now. Let's see. As we suspected, a lot of Anthony Davis. As we suspected, a lot of Carmelo Anthony. This Brandon Jennings play, again, I've said this before. I guess this is the type of player that you want in a GPP. He could play 16 minutes and score 9 points, or he could play 23 and score 27. The range of outcomes here is fairly large. He did play 28 minutes a week ago, or what was that? A little over a week ago, the last time they played New Orleans, so maybe this is a good matchup. Maybe he gets back and plays 28 minutes. Remember, he started a couple games over the course of the last couple weeks, but he's not going to start tonight. But this is what we're going to roll out. I think, we'll see how this goes. At some point, we might have to start putting some opinion in this, but like I said, we're gonna roll out these projections and see what happens. It's only three games, so if it's contrarian, I'm happy to be contrarian, and we'll throw 50 lineups in and see what happens. So good luck us, and I will talk to you guys in a few hours after this slate's done. See ya. All right, back with an update for how last night went, and the only word I can use to describe it is bizarre. Last night was a 3-game slate we were all in on the New York Knicks, New Orleans Pelicans game. We had 94% of Carmelo Anthony. We had 93% of Derrick Rose. I'm watching the game. We're 5 minutes after lineups lock. I'm watching the game, and they come over with a breaking news. The game hasn't even started yet. They're shooting around. Derrick Rose is not in the building, and Brandon Jennings is going to start. So, that sucks. We just burnt 93% of our lineups who have Derrick Rose. I mean, we're going to take a goose egg. I'm disappointed because the night's over before it even starts. I mean, none of the games have even tipped off yet, and we're just absolutely toast. Really unfortunate. Now, this is a situation that was hotly debated last night on Twitter, kind of whose fault is this, and would late swap would have fixed this? And the answer is no, late swap wouldn't have mattered here. It was already past 4:30, which was the tip-off game, so we couldn't have gotten off Derrick Rose. This is actually, if there's anybody to blame on this, it's probably the New York Knicks beat writers. Where were you guys? No reports on this all day long. 90 minutes before the game starts, Derrick Rose is in the starting lineup. The fact that he wasn't even in the building, no one noticed that. No one noticed he wasn't on the court for a shoot around. No one noticed that he wasn't in the locker room before the game. Just absolutely no news from the New York beat writers, which is really shocking. So if there's anybody to blame, I guess it's those guys. Sucks for us. I hope everything's all right with Derrick Rose. Last I heard, I mean, reports were he might have been in Chicago. Who really knows what was going on? I don't know. Hope the best for him, but it really hurt us. Now, I can show you here. This was our exposure last night. We had 92% of Derrick Rose. We had 94% of Carmelo Anthony, who was ejected in the third quarter. This could not have been more of a dumpster fire for us last night. Our two highest owned players, one is not even in the building, and we take a goose egg from, and the other gets ejected in the third quarter, and he wasn't really having that good a game anyway. Really unfortunate. Now, with me complaining and saying this, we actually didn't get killed. This was a recipe for losing every single buy-in. Before these games started and I found out the Derrick Rose news, I was fully expecting to lose every single buy-in here and go away with nothing. Here's the results. We lost like $3. Yeah, believe it or not, here with these two guys being our highest owned players, we cashed for $9.40 on $12.50 of entries, which to me is mind-blowing. It helps that 30% of the field had Derrick Rose, but we still had 90% of him. But we were really good elsewhere, which is unfortunate because because we had good lineups and we took a 0 in most of them. Let's look at these. So this is our best lineup. Our best lineup scores 278 points on a 3-game slate, taking a 0 from the point guard position. That's fairly unheard of. That's unbelievable. I'm in shock. Luckily, we did have a ton of Brandon Jennings, believe it or not. If you remember in the first couple parts of the video, I was mentioning, he's a very volatile guy. He's not going to start, whatever. All this wild news breaks. He ends up playing a ton, goes for 37 points. We had like 60% of him compared to 10% that the rest of the field had. So that was a saving grace. Also, we were absolutely right to go with Anthony Davis over Russell Westbrook. We did not have a lot of Russell Westbrook. We had a ton of Anthony Davis. Our projections there were absolutely correct to go with Anthony Davis. He had just a killer game. So we got bailed out by those guys despite taking this goose egg here, which is really unfortunate. Here's the winning lineup. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. I guess the Ricky Rubio going for 51 points and being less than 7% owned, that's the catalyst for this lineup. But other than that, we had a lot of the pieces here. Instead of Michael Carter-Williams, we went with Monte Eunice as our value play. They both basically scored the same thing. Dwayne Wade had that big night that we were looking forward to. You know, I mentioned it before. If Jimmy Butler didn't play, I probably would have rostered Dwayne Wade in every single lineup. Jimmy Butler does play and lays a total egg. He scores 1 point. And Dwayne Wade has a good game anyway. So, that's kind of the breaks there. Other than that, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Rubio, obviously the big piece here. But a pretty straightforward lineup. Nothing too spectacular. 330 on a 3-game slate. Obviously very good. But I mean, look at this. Fourth place was 317. I mean, there wasn't a lot of scores, a lot of high scores to be had last night. Obviously, with the Carmelo and with the Carmelo in half of the lineups and Derrick Rose in 30%. So at least when we went down, we had significantly more than the field, but when those guys went down, they basically took everybody with them, and then we were really good with the rest of the guys. So stoked to only be down $3 last night. I think we're down $8 overall. We'll keep grinding it out. I will try to do a PGA video this week, the Sony Opens this week, which I'm really excited about. And then I'll throw in a couple slates. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. I update there more often than I update here, just because I don't have to make the videos and edit them and all that stuff. So follow me on Twitter. It's at DFS On Demand. If you have any questions or comments about this series, throw it in the comment section below. And that's about it. I will talk to you guys soon. See ya.